President Biden is meeting with 10 Republican senators today who will propose an alternative coronavirus relief package. Their proposal would give individuals making less than $40,000 stimulus checks of $1,000. That's compared to President Biden's proposal that would give $1,400 checks to Americans making less than $75,000. CBS Money Watch takes a look at whether fewer Americans should get a $1,400 stimulus check and if they should be targeted to Americans who need them the most. For more on this, I want to bring in CBS Money Watch reporter Amy Peeke. Hi, Amy. Great to see you. So tell us about this debate over who should be receiving stimulus checks. Are there lessons learned from the first round that could possibly be applied to the subsequent rounds of stimulus checks?
Yeah, this is a really important issue as lawmakers are right now debating the third stimulus check. President Biden has proposed a $1,400 check to go to most U.S. households. And there is data that's just come out on the second stimulus check, which was $600, and it was sent in early January to many U.S. households. And this data is from a group of economists called Opportunity Insights, and they got real-time data to look at how people are spending the money. And what they found was that people who earn less than $78,000 a year pretty much immediately spent the money. Those making over $78,000 a year, however, saved it. They spent very little. I think their forecast or their estimate was only, I think, $45 of that $600 would be spent, and the rest of it would be saved. These are households who have recovered their jobs. They are kind of more stable as the pandemic has gone on. And what they're saying is, it's the lower income households who really need the money. And as lawmakers are considering a third stimulus check, that needs to be part of the debate. How do we get the money to the households that need it the most?
And so how can these payments then be targeted to lower income families and households? Is it as simple as lowering the threshold for, income in terms of who can get a check?
Well, that's what some economists are saying. And today we've seen 10 Republican lawmakers have proposed their counter proposal for the third stimulus check and an overall stimulus bill that does just that. They're saying, let's get it to the families that need it the most. And so what they want to do is lower the income threshold to $40,000 for a single person and $80,000 for a married couple. That's significantly lower than what we've seen in the previous two bills. So that would cut out millions of households from receiving the third stimulus check. These checks that were incredibly popular with Americans of all incomes that have been eligible to get them. In fact, there was a survey from Credit Karma that found that almost half of people earning over $150,000 said they needed this money to stabilize their income. So you've got kind of a push-pull here. You've got some lawmakers saying, let's really focus it, get it to the people who need it most. But a lot of Americans are saying, everybody needs it. A lot of us are suffering right now, regardless of our income.
And I'm curious if these economists that were looking at who spent the money and who saved it broke it down in terms of the fact that a lot of industries are simply not open. So, maybe you would use this money in ways that you simply can't now because there are fewer options to spend it. But maybe it will be spent later once the economy opens up again. Did they look at that by any chance?
Well, what they said was basically that if you gave checks, these $1,400 checks to everybody earning over $78,000, it would cost about $200 billion in government spending, but only $15 billion of it would be spent immediately. And the rest of it would be banked. And yes, when the economy opens up again, when people can go on vacation, when they can go out to eat to fancy restaurants, that money will probably be spent. But right now, it's hard to spend money on a lot of leisure activities that we used to spend on before the pandemic. So, their point is, yes, this money will be spent eventually, but right now, if you're looking for the biggest bang for the buck, let's focus it on the families and the workers that really need it now and would spend it now. Because the other side of the stimulus payments is that it's not only helping individual families, but it's helping the economy. That's part of the idea, right?
Right.
So you get your $600.
Right, exactly. it's to stimulate the entire economy. So since there are certain sectors of the economy that simply can't be stimulated at the moment, did these economists have other suggestions as to how to do that besides giving these direct payments to families?
Yeah, so, it's interesting. Economists say, the stimulus checks are useful to some extent, but there are other programs that are more efficient at getting money to the people who need it the most and stimulating the economy. And the two biggest programs that hit both those boxes are food stamps and unemployment aid, because you are getting the money directly to people who need it at that moment, people who qualify for food stamps and people who've lost their jobs. So what they've seen with the extra earlier in the pandemic, the extra $600 per week for unemployment, and now it's an extra $300, that goes right back into the economy. And same with food stamps. You get your food stamps, you immediately go to the grocery store, you buy food, and that's helping the local stores, the local businesses stay in business during the pandemic. So they're saying, let's think about how we spend this money, and maybe it's better to spend that money instead of on more stimulus checks, on food stamps, unemployment, or other programs that are more efficient.
All important points to consider. Amy Peeke, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.